Welcome to the Binge Thinker episode 30. My name is Jameel Raymond. It's an absolute pleasure, as always, to have you here. Oh, I switched that up a bit different for you folks. Today on the podcast, I've got a fantastic guest, an amazing comedian, a great friend, and social worker. But I said that in a way that makes it demeaning because I didn't really know what to put in front of it. She is a A-grade social worker as well, all right? Please welcome Mimi Shaheen.
Thanks for having me.
No, absolute pleasure. But yeah, I really should have thought of a better adjective.
It didn't seem demeaning.
I don't know. It was just like, and social worker, like, you know,
Well, that's because
caring.
people don't really know that about me.
No, that's true,
probably
right?
why.
Yeah. And that's why I wanted to have you on here today is actually to speak about, your great comedy aside, a different element to yourself, which is, everyone's got a life outside of comedy.
Mm-hmm.
Good people have a life outside of comedy. There's a lot of people that don't, that we know.
Like good people.
Yeah, the good ones. They've got something else going on in their lives.
I didn't expect you to say that.
Yeah, I'm a little bit off the comedy scene. It's a little bit, after dealing with them for so long, so intensely.
Yeah, right.
So I'm just like, I don't mind putting a degree of separation between myself and others in the moment.
Yeah, right. Maybe you're burnt out from comedy.
Yeah, a little bit, definitely.
It can become a bit crazy. It becomes like your whole life. You don't realize yourself slipping into it.
Well, it hasn't been it wasn't my entire life, and then it was, and then it wasn't, now it was again. Like, first when I started comedy, I was obsessed and wanted to get into it. And, there was definitely, when I first started, this is probably about 4 or 5 years ago, it was, the rat race of being a gig pig and getting as many gigs in as possible. And I had a full-time job and I had a girlfriend at the time. So it was like, I felt like, oh no, I'm not good enough.
Yeah.
And then the pandemic hit. I ran Mad Dog. I was like, I'm really shit at this now because I had no time to actually focus on jokes. And then the pandemic hit and I was like, well, nobody did comedy.
Yeah.
And then, doing ACN, I was like neck deep into comedy but not performing. And now I'm like, I'm pulling out. So I'm sort of outish again.
Yeah.
But it's good. It's healthy, right? I mean, if you don't take a break from comedy, there is something seriously wrong with you. Like, how many breaks have anyone taken? You've probably taken a couple by now. How many times have you quit, in air quotes?
Oh, yeah. I reckon I did like a big quit one time. But I thought that I was moving overseas. So like, I'm just like, I said I quit and then I thought I was moving. But then, because it takes its toll. It definitely takes its toll. And then, I've gone in and out of like, I want to quit. And then I don't because I know I'm addicted to it. And then it's like, I just need some new material. Like that's where I felt like I just need some new material because I'm just sick of hearing my stuff and doing my stuff and hearing myself say my stuff. So, and then like when I took that break that I was meant to have, it didn't feel like a real break because then COVID hit. And I'm like, well, it's not a break if everyone else is taking a break. I'm like, I need to separate myself from it. But it looks like everyone's had to separate themselves from it. And then, over that time, I was like, no, that's it. We're going back in. Like, as soon as it was over, I'm like, no, I miss it. I'm going back. But, other than that, I don't think I've actually ever stopped doing comedy.
Yeah.
Ever, except for that. So maybe there's something wrong with me.
Oh, well, you're in comedy. There's something wrong with you, right?
Something wrong with me anyway.
But that's the community.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. But that's what I mean. Like you sort of, like I think I was saying it to Gary the other day. I'm like, you forget you have a life outside of it when you're in it. Like you forget you're like, I was someone before this. Like my name and face doesn't have to be on a poster. I don't have to like look at it and be like, why didn't I get that one? Like I'm like, we were all people doing something before we started this.
Yeah, but was it that gratifying?
What?
Your pre-comedy life?
There was always something missing from it. But I guess like my point is it's still not going to be what makes me me. Yeah. Like it's a really nice addition. It's like really exciting. I love doing it and I hate doing it and I hate myself more since I started it. So how healthy is it really? But no, like it's definitely something that like I probably couldn't live without because I'd always wanted to do it. But like it does slowly consume your whole life.
Yeah.
It's always about my next gig. And then like I am a gig pig. Like I am gigging most nights, But like I said, because I'm a perfectionist. So I'm like, I need to keep doing this until I've got it perfect.
Yeah. I mean, I know that like despite what other people might say about me being inactive or active in the community and whatnot, comedy is never going to leave me.
Yeah.
Right? I will be involved in it in some way or form that is validating to me and fulfilling to me.
Yeah.
It might not be the same as others, but I can't let this go.
Well, you've successfully run comedy for a while now.
Yeah.
So, like, I would say, like, yeah, you've definitely got a hand in it. And it would be good for you to keep a hand in it because you do come to it from, like, a different lens.
Yeah.
So,
And I think I'll always keep that. I mean, that's what these various pursuits are, is exploring how I can add value in other parts of my life into the comedy industry and the comedy scene. But that restricts me from being a comedian, which is what I got into in the first place.
Yeah.
That's why I came into here, so I could
Yeah.
be funny.
yeah.
Like, I don't know if I'll ever be a full-time comedian per se. But again, because what we were talking about before is that there's so many other elements to my life that I need to explore and give me validation and sort of get fulfillment instead of validation, that I don't have to put all my eggs in the comedy basket. Like, it's a concept that's sort of come to me recently is the concept of being like a polymath, which is someone that's got a broad amount of experience in various areas.
Right.
And I think I'm sort of going back towards that in a way, or going towards that in a way. Like, I've got technology, I've got business, I've got philosophy, music, comedy, right? Like, I've got broad interests and, some good knowledge about all of that. So it's like, how could I ever be all in on one thing?
Yeah.
When I've always got these things that are pulling me in these different directions.
Yeah.
And I'm sort of accepting that a bit more now.
Yeah.
And that feels healthier.
Yeah.
But I will still always try and be a comedian in some way or form, because it's natural, it's inherent, right? That's the thing, is like, there's a question that's always asked among comedic circles. Well, it was on a show called The Green Room with Paul Provenza, and Bob Saget had this conversation in it where Richard Pryor asked him, how old were you when you knew you were funny? And for me, he said 4 years old, and so did Richard, because, they were always entertaining their family. And, you could see the elements of when they knew they were funny. I'm the same. Like, there are videos for me when I was 2 or 3 years old where I'm entertaining my family and laughing, putting things on for the crowd and whatever it is.
Yeah.
So I was class clown. I was, always doing funny things. So that'll never stop.
Yeah.
And that seems to, now that I've sort of scratched the itch by being involved, I don't feel like I need to really validate myself as a comedian, get full into it and be the guy that's gig pigging and fucking neck deep in the festival circuit and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, right.
Maybe I'll get there, but I don't feel like I need to attach myself to that.
But it looks like you've a lot of people live, breathe and eat comedy in terms of the stand-up part.
Yeah.
And doing that. But it looked like from an outsider's point of view, I'm like, you've just jumped head first into the business side and doing it well. Do you know what I mean? In terms of what you're running and what you're trying to establish.
Yeah, because honestly, the bar is so low, I think. Is that, and I've said this many times in this pod, is that the comedy scene, anything below the major venues, anything below the Lounge or the Comedy Store in Australia, is entirely left up to other enterprising comedians to run shows. Aspiring producers, people that want to have the leverage of running a show in the scene. And that's it.
Yeah.
You think about that, besides someone like Carl Chandler, right? Or I forgot his name, is the guy in Sydney who's running ID Comedy Club. Seems to be Anthony Skinner, right? Again, there's these big enterprising individuals, and then the open mic scene to the semi-professional gigs. It's just up to people like me to run these things, and there's no blueprint. Right, you sort of understand what goes into a good show, and I just like solving problems and figuring it out. I'm someone that just does a lot of stuff because I get frustrated about how poorly something is being done.
Yeah,
and I go, I could do that better, and I just do it, and then I go, oh, it's fucking working. Great.
Yeah.
And I would love to scale it out for the benefit of everyone else in the scene, but why? I get a similar amount of validation running a show that I do being in it. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, if there's a good night that's been had, maybe I bomb, but the show is great. I'm still responsible for that. And that feels good.
Yeah.
Everyone's walking out, irrespective of how I perform as an individual, because they've had a great experience by having a good night.
Yeah.
And that's what sort of drives me. But I'm like, gosh, the next step would be fucking do this in 8 different venues in different regions of Melbourne.
Yeah.
Have another good monthly going on. And then there'd be great comedy everywhere. And you could just circulate people around all these good gigs.
Yeah.
But then I go, well, why would I want to organise that?
But why not?
Because it's a lot of effort. Like in the 12 months that me and Sam first built Footscray Comedy Club, we were working an extra 40 hours in a month each on building it. And we don't take a profit from what we do. We don't take any money from it. So we've got a couple of grand stashed away, just sitting there from the, some profits. And that's why we're, expanding Jambo into fortnightly now. It's just because, all right, it's successful.
Yeah.
And like, what am I going to get out of it? If I'm not making any money from it, and then I have to then mitigate the risk of dealing with people that don't necessarily know how to do things as well as I do, that's a pain in the ass. I mean, you're a team leader, right? And you have to deal with a team and managing that and all the risks associated with that.
Yeah.
Like, it's just...
So what would it take for you to be making enough profit then?
It's not about the profit for me.
No, it's not about that for you, but like you mentioned money as something. Sorry, I feel like I'm sitting with a client now.
No, that's all right. This always ends up being a therapy in one way or form.
No, but like, because you said like, why would I do it if I'm not like making, like you're not taking a profit from it and it is a lot of work.
Yeah.
Obviously, if there was a return, then it might be a little bit more attractive to do if you were to sort of spread it into like, the 8 or however many you said, like in different parts of Melbourne. So like, why isn't there a profit being turned in this case? Like why, like you got the money sitting there, like, yeah, that's cool. Like it's not that much considering you've been running it for like the 12 months.
Yeah.
But like, why isn't there more if it's running so successfully?
Because I don't have enough time to put into it.
Yeah.
Like I've got Pride and that's, middling at about 40 to 50 seats a month and I want to get that to 80 to 100.
Yeah.
So that's a challenge.
Yeah.
And again, I didn't get into comedy to become a producer. Like I fell into it and I'm good at it and I get something from it. But I don't want to I don't want this to define my entire life.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of effort. Right? Like I tell, and me and Sam are going to do an episode on the other pod that you just did with him.
Yeah. Yeah.
About what it takes to run a successful room. We're not trying to hide any secrets. We want this to be out there. It's just that there are no people that are willing enough to figure it out and tough it out and have the nous and the smarts, right? Like, or else there'd be more better rooms out there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, it's easy for me as an outsider to be like, you guys are doing so well with 1 or 2. Why don't you just do 6 more? Like, it's easy for me to say that, but that's why I'm asking. Like, it shouldn't be.
It's an extra 20.
I probably sound like I'm challenging you, but I'm not.
No.
Like, I'm curious.
That's fine. No, you feel free to challenge me. I already figured it out.
Yeah. No. I have no desire to challenge this. It's more curiosity.
Yeah. Every show. Okay. So every show takes 20 hours of work. Right? From being there, running the show, that's 4 to 5 hours.
Yeah.
Creating the content to promote it, booking the acts, the admin pre and post. Like we've optimized it now between both of us. But, like on a good month, like if Sam and I make $50 on a good Jambo each.
And that's it.
That's it. Keep the margins low. The sign, and I've said this, the sign of a good comedy show for me is not necessarily it's making a lot of money, that it's profitable and self-sustaining, that the artists get paid, everyone has a good night, and it can keep going and keep growing.
Yeah.
But yeah, if these are self-contained ecosystems over and over again, then there's really not much room for profitability. I mean, if I do a good Pride show and that has 60 to 70 people, like I had like 95 last month because we had Geraldine Hickey on.
Yeah, sick.
Yeah, I might make $300 to $400, but for that one show that get 90, I'm still barely breaking even on shows that are doing 40 to 50.
Yeah. Okay.
So, What's the point?
It's hard if you're like working full time as well. When you can't throw yourself into it fully, it's hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, I did not get into comedy to be running 8 gigs. Like, who else has done it successfully? No one. Everyone that's doing well is got one venue or one place that they sort of sit out of.
Yeah.
And it's not my responsibility to curate the entire Melbourne scene.
Yeah, no, it's not. It's not anyone's responsibility.
No.
That would be a nightmare.
Yeah. Right? So if I could, I've thought about systemizing it and outsourcing it to, I guess like having 2 enterprising, useful individuals in every region. Right? I say 8 because I just go like inner west, inner north, inner east, inner south, outer west, inner north. That's how I got the 8 regions, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Just a geographical area. Find a venue that can hold 30 to 70 people. Decent venue, has a decent social media following.
Yeah.
And then, build the night out, make it a monthly. You've got plenty of time to market. You've got to get your people's content out there. So you start this content sharing ecosystem of other people's clips. You've got to market and partner with the venue to, mirror their social media reach. Then you have to go out to the local community and sort of cross promote with them.
Yeah.
Like that's a lot.
Yeah, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
For what? Maybe making $100 each per comic, like per room runner.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah, fair enough.
And so if you're doing it for the passion and to build the infrastructure up for better comedy to exist, yeah, great. But am I going to find 14 other people that are going to be passionate and disciplined enough to maintain that?
Yeah.
In this scene.
Well, there's a lot of like variables that you have to depend on as well. Because, it's not just you that's doing it. Like I know that some of the difficulty that we've found is like, you might be driven enough, like say like me as a person, I might be driven enough to run something, but can I rely on a venue to be promoting? Are we going to rock up with no one there?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Well, see, I don't even bother. Like with Jambo, with Pride, we do all the marketing.
Yeah.
We just say, give us the venue, and we do a bar door deal. So we keep all the door, they get everything over the bar.
Yeah.
And we just do everything. We just use their reach.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
So, we'll, collaborate on Instagram and things like that. That's it.
Yeah.
Like Jambo has no social media. We had to do that all ourselves, but it's only 30 seats. If you can't sell 30 seats in, Footscray, then something's wrong.
Yeah.
Well, sell it to the other people that haven't been able to do it. Yeah. But it's a different story.
Well, Jumbo's a great room. Jumbo's a fun room.
I honestly think it's one of the best in Melbourne.
Yeah, it's a fun one to do. I enjoy it.
I might be biased, but that and On the Gags, like for people that are sort of like, Eddie, who are just lucking out on good venues and creating a great experience, I think, is up there.
Yeah, that was definitely a really fun gig as well. Yeah.
But yeah, I'm just trying to keep to myself and sort of not overreach for no benefit. That's where really I'm at now.
Yeah.
With that sort of stuff is to, sit in my own little corner. Everyone says I don't do comedy, and they're kind of right. So I'm like, well, okay. I didn't come into here to be fucking Barry Katz or some fucking shitty manager. So anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, well, do what you're feeling up to. Do you know what I mean? Like you do a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do a lot.
Yeah.
So even by getting rid of ACN or putting it on the back burner, I still have no time. I've already filled it.
Yeah.
With other things that I could be working on instead and other priorities and focuses in life. So I'm not sitting here going, oh, woe is me, what's next? I'm like, all right.
So where is your downtime?
Not much. I have to create space now. I have to create space. And that's one of the things is like, we talked about this before. Like, I'm 32, don't have a partner. I want to have a family soonish. I got to create space for that in my life. So, working less.
Yeah.
Instead of working 60 hours a week, maybe work 50 and chugging a date night. Just scroll the apps a little bit or, try and find someone.
Yeah, yeah.
Because, in the 6 months that I was working previous to the break, I had, burnt out. There was a point in time where I couldn't tell you I had more than an afternoon off in over 2 or 3 weeks. from working full-time, producing things, running gigs, promoting shows, looking for content, collaborating, like curating it. It's like...
But even now, though, like on your own, without the family that you have to make space for, that you'd have to start, like where's your time for you, like now at this point? Like you sort of stopped with ACN, you said. Like where's your time? Your you time?
Well, I might veg out on the couch and watch a pod or watch something on YouTube, from like 8 o'clock onwards or 8, 9 o'clock onwards to like 10 some nights. Most nights. Take it fairly slow on the weekends. Still do, like today's different.
Yeah.
I record the pod and stuff. In the mornings, I like to read in the mornings, half an hour, chill out a little bit. So the mornings, my morning time is for me and sort of my schedule to set me off for the rest of the day. That's about it, really. But besides that, I'm on a lot, just constantly on.
Yeah.
Which I like. It's not like I'm sitting here hating it, but I'm going, oh shit, there are some priorities in life that I need to bring into that.
Yeah.
And that's where, I'm like, oh shit, all right, pull this back, because comedy's forever, business is forever. The constant pursuits of my hobbies and things that I'm passionate about is the rest of my life.
Yeah.
The path towards my individual, creative, financial, personal freedom is a lifelong process. It takes years.
Yeah.
There are no overnight successes, An overnight success in comedy is in the game 12 to 15 years, right?
Very, very rare.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, create space. Like, don't feel like you need to just rush into it head on. And that's why I burnt out, because I'm like, just wheels spinning. Well, not spinning, but just like going.
Yeah.
Just trying ideas, iterating them, figuring things out.
Yeah.
And then it's going, no. Pull it back.
Yeah.
Pull it back.
Yeah, I definitely get that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, same thing with gigs, right? It's like, when you're pigging and when, particularly early on when I saw the guys are like, oh, I only did like 7 or 8 gigs this week. And you're like, fucking hell, man. Think about that.
Yeah.
Right? That's still more than 1 a day. And you're pulling yourself down?
Yeah.
For what?
Yeah. I think I was very similar. Like when I first started, I threw myself into it completely. I was definitely doing a few a week. Even now, like I fill up my weeks with it. I don't say no to any gigs. I mean, like last week, because I had this last week off work in between.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'll take this week off gigs as well. And like I got to do all the things I needed to do, like the gardening, a deep clean of the house, like trying to put up floating shelves. Like I built a shelf. Do you know what I mean? When I say I built it, I mean like I borrowed my friend's Phillips head screwdriver and I put something together.
Yeah, I cared it. Yeah.
Like, I mean, I'm a girl that lives by myself, you know, but it's like I own this house and I'm like, there's so much I've wanted to do to it. And I haven't been able to, because it's like work gig. Like for at least, I mean, I think I average out like 4 to 6 gigs a week after work or on weekend nights. So it's like, and I'm very similar to you because I fill my time. I'm like, oh, look, I've got a night off. What should I, like, am I actually going to sit at home on the couch? And it's a very bizarre concept to me to like sit at home on the couch and watch a movie or like an episode of something. But this week, I mean, I got through the Dharma series. I was wrapped. I'm like sick. I got to watch something like all through. But I had the days off as well. So, but I'm very similar to you in that, like, as soon as I've got that free time, it's filled with something else that's a work in progress. It's not like a hobby where I'm going to sit down and scrapbook. Like I'm like, it has to be something that's working towards something else.
Oh yeah.
Like I'll do like a short course thingy or like do like a quick 2 or 3 modules of something online. Like, cause I'm like, if I don't use that time wisely to like constantly learn or stimulate something, then it's wasted time, which it shouldn't be. It should be time that you use to just veg out.
Yeah. You need rest.
Yeah.
And I keep learning the hard way that I need rest.
Yeah.
And I need to switch my brain off. I mean, part of me has definitely compensated with things like weed in the past, right? Is to go caffeine, cannabis, right? Yeah. So I get that. Yeah, and that's what I need to slow down, that perpetual motion. Like, I know that I'm a dopamine addict. Like, I constantly crave success, reward, outcome. I'm driven. I get it.
Yeah.
But it's unhealthy. And then I find it from cheap sources like my phone. And then that just unhealthily slows me down in the wrong ways, as
Yeah.
opposed to just having like things like active rest
Yeah.
and completely decompressing.
Yeah.
But then I'm just decompressing for the process of getting back into work and being efficient at my work next time around.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Because you feel like you get rusty. Like, and I just, like, at anything, if I slow down too much, it's like sluggish to get into something the next time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, like comedy, right? Like, I do okay, but I could be better.
Yeah.
But, if I was only gigging once a month, like, yeah, I'm just cruising on the material that I know, and I'm comfortable enough on stage to get by. But am I improving my craft? No. And so, again, I want to create more space to just, a couple of gigs a week or something like that.
Yeah.
As well. But then I'll just fill that time up,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like yesterday, I cleaned the house top to bottom because I needed to do that. I haven't done it since I got back from overseas. Like, I haven't created the space to do the little life admin things that I've got.
Yeah.
And they just keep piling up, and then you go, fuck, there's this pile of shit here that I need to do. And it just creates more anxiety about what else you feel like you need to do in your life.
Yeah.
But then I brain dumped everything that I had in my head about what I want to do for this podcast and how to improve it, and how, I'm going to churn out more content and, really learn the YouTube game.
Yeah.
And things like that. So no matter what, I'm sort of compelled to just keep doing and keep going.
Yeah. I have this thing where like yesterday I did like gardening. And when I say gardening, I don't have a garden. Like, I'm in an apartment, but like, it's a pretty big balcony, and I hadn't potted my bonsais, or I hadn't whatever, and the sun's coming out, and I'm like, I need to get seeds down. And I did it yesterday, but I have this really uncomfortable feeling when it gets to, okay, a project's finished, because I'm like, if I sit on the couch, and I think I've got this fear of like, there was like this journey, especially over lockdown, but like, and you might resonate with this, I don't know if you do, but if you're inactive, it's just food and a couch and just swelling, like physical swelling. And I'm just like, I do have a very active lifestyle, but I'm not sitting there like, at a gym 2 hours a day, but it's like, it's active as in like I'm going from one place to the next. But as soon as I stop, I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to go through this depressive state where like I could have spent like a whole month just sitting down, not moving, because it's like over lockdown, like you did all the things you needed to do. I cleaned out the wardrobe. I cleaned my car out. I reorganized the kitchen. Like, as soon as something finishes and when there's nothing left to do, I'm like, oh, my reward is I get to do nothing now.
Right.
But I feel like, I mean, they say like snowball effect, but like I literally was just a fucking snowball. Like, I'm just like, okay, well, what else is there to watch? Like, you feel disgusting. I have this huge fear of stopping, because I know that when I stop, like, I'm just like, oh, good. The rewards like Uber Eats, a couch, Netflix, and there's my trifecta of like just this fat, disgusting lifestyle, and I'm not comfortable with it. So like, I've tried to sort of zone it back to like, okay, do like a meditation in the morning, some sort of gratitude, something or other, kick off the day. And then if I check my phone and some idiot has messaged me and pissed me off, I have to do it again because I'm like, okay, it didn't work, But like, I sort of like, I try to make that the me time, and then like continue with my day. But I have this massive fear of like, if I have a project that's finished, like, and then I've enjoyed that it's finished and it's done, then I'm like, oh no, it's happening. Like, I'm lazy again. Like, I have to always find something to fill that time with. But that's me. And because I only realized it like pretty much this week, kind of, because I'm like, I had the week off work, I had no gigs, and I just worked through, deep cleaned, fucking did everything I had to do. Because I also had barely touched the place since we got back from Singapore as well. And I'm like, I just need to get through everything, do it proper, clean everything, like the dust in the corners, like all that sort of stuff. And once it was done, I'm like, I felt this anxiety building, like, because I spent, when I finished all that stuff, I'm like, good, it's the couch, it's food, it's TV. And I'm like, that's happening. It's happening. And so I immediately got up and went for like an hour walk.
Right.
And then came back, tired myself out, had a shower, ate a salad, and then went to bed. And I'm
Right.
like, okay, like,
Everything's
all
fine.
right, it's okay, it's okay. Like tomorrow, I got to get up, I got to go here, I got to do podcast. Like, I need to plan it out. Like,
Yeah.
I hate the thought of be like, tomorrow's just going to be a nothing day. No, it's just, I just do whatever. I'd like, no, whatever you want is going to be sitting on the couch, and I don't want to do that. You know, so I have this fear of stopping.
I don't know if I've got a fear of stopping. I do get certain elements of what you do, right? Because, yeah, I am very prone to running myself into the ground.
Same.
I think I have a perpetual fear of boredom. And there's certainly this degree of judging myself as being lazy that I'm getting away from constantly, because I was an overweight child. I was constantly being called lazy by my parents and my family and people, because I was a lazy kid, and I am still an inherently lazy person. That's why I like driving efficiencies in everything that I do, so I can do the most with the least effort. So with that, I guess for me, it's like, yeah, there is this compulsion, but yeah, so it's two facets. It's I'm afraid of considering myself lazy, and even when I do so much, and like people go, "How do you do so much?" It's because sometimes I have to look around and go, "Oh fuck, I'm really outworking a lot of people here." I know that I'm outworking a lot of people in a lot of ways, but then when there's always this thing of never enough. It's not
Yep.
done. I'm
Yep.
always running from the fat kid inside that was ostracized, or being told that they were lazy and did nothing, because I've had plenty of time where I've just sat on the couch and did nothing and just ate when I was a kid, and that's just masking a degree of sadness, or eating my feelings and just not using that energy up.
Yeah.
I think there is this perpetual fear of entropy, which is, the just inversion of energy, and that's what happens when you snowball, right? Is you go, 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 but if I don't, then I'm just if I don't burn this energy out, I don't do something, it's just gonna fucking manifest inside me, and in chips and, season 3 of the Ozarks or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like for me, I haven't watched anything on Netflix. I haven't watched a series in years. I don't watch any movies. I watch a lot of podcasts, a lot of comedy podcasts, but then again, for me, that's actually learning as well as it is entertaining. Like, it's funny, yeah, it's great, but I'm getting inside tips on the biz and the future of what's going on.
Yep.
Like, I'm constantly learning. So, yeah, that's why I need to get out of that. Be a broader human. And that's, yeah, but again, if I go back into music, then I'm going to go deep into relearning how good I was, or getting back into my old groove and my old, get the rust off, and maybe learn some more theory and be more practical and learn multiple instruments like I did before.
Yeah.
Like, it just never stops. Hence why I'm called Binge Thinker. I'm just constantly on. But it's just recognizing when that's healthy and when that's not healthy.
Yeah.
Is the hard part.
Yeah.
Usually I'll find out the hard way.
Yeah. Well, when you collapse in a heap.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Yeah, when I'm like literally dragging myself and just in a constant fog, like I was in the weeks leading up. And just, when my mind is clear, and when my mind is clear, I feel really positive, blessed, like, confident. I can throw myself into the unknown and have faith through this great a practice of gratitude, and just being able to collate all the positive things that happen in my life, and knowing that they'll continue to happen. When I don't think like that, that's when I know I'm overworking myself or I'm too stressed. When I start getting to that survival mode, as opposed to thinking abundantly about what could be positive, as opposed to being negative and being like, I still need more, I need this and that. And that's what I was getting towards, the edge of my breakdown. Was, I had good money coming in, like more than enough to fuel the business and any projects that I had coming up next. But part of me is still going, it's not enough. What are you going to do next? Whereas, I'm like, just that monkey mind just takes over.
Yeah.
And I'm going, oh, there's not enough money. But I'm like, I don't even have any projects yet Even when I like budget things for each thing that I'm doing, and there's still this amount of cash left. And that's great, and I'll keep making more because things are good. There's still part of me that's going, nah, how are you gonna get the next dollar? How are you gonna do the next project? So yeah, I got to get out of that.
Where do you think that comes from?
It's survival. It's just
But in terms of it arguing with the logic, though, like where do you think that's coming from?
the logic of
As in, like, you've got the logic of, like, you've got more than enough.
Yeah.
But how come there's still that voice in the back of your head that's like that primitive survival one?
because it's not thinking abundantly. It's thinking surviving. It's thinking I'm not enough. This is not enough. I haven't reached where I needed to go yet. So I need to keep pushing and keep going and keep going. Oh fuck! They didn't let it go. Hang on, let me fix that. To get back to what you're saying is just no matter what, right? That's when I know I've got to clear the head and start afresh. It's the wrong kind of stress. It's just being in a place like this. I'm doing really well as an individual, but putting myself in this perpetual state of stress when I don't. I was seeing less and less of what was actually out there to succeed with. I talked about the hows and whys of why I've stopped ACN to begin with. So I go back to the drawing board on that. I know I'm never going to be immune to success or not stress, and it's whatever I pursue in life is always going to put me under degrees of stress. But I've done enough in my life, and I back myself in. I like the stress. I like a deadline. I like a challenge. Part of why I do everything that I do is I like to be intellectually challenged. That's always been a constant for me because I was a smart individual, and I like to have fun with how smart and how much I can take that and how far I can take that. So that's the positive side of what drives me.
Yeah.
As I just get like this, my inner child, the tinkerer, the experimentalist, the guy that likes to put things together. That's just me bouncing around from thing to thing. But then you go, I know my life is fucking good. And then when I start to think that it's not, when nothing has really happened except for the things that I put myself under, that's when I go, all right, time to reconsider what I'm doing here.
Yep. Yep.
So, yeah.
Well, look, at least you do that.
Yeah, but that takes a it takes a significant amount of self-awareness that I've had to cultivate over the last couple of years. That's where it's come from.
Yeah.
Is I've come from a mindset that was highly self-critical, a huge inner critic. So I've been aware and meta-communicating this difference in who I am as an individual over this massive growth period.
Yep.
So I know what my mind was like previously. I know what my mind is like now. So if I ever go back, I go, no. But just like you said, how many people are actually taking notice of the contents of their mind as opposed to genuinely observing and having that meta-communicative state of going, why am I thinking so negatively all the time? Why am I putting my mind through these false stories that have not come true? And we get sucked up into the emotions, and that's just that trauma sort of feeding through from your history and your past and whatever told you that you couldn't. It just echoes over and loops over and over again.
Yeah.
But people, unfortunately, without mindfulness, without meditation, without a gratitude practice, that's the trap that you see themselves fall into. And those are the loops that you see in people's behaviors, in their mindsets.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate that we don't have this amount of, emotional education and self-regulation. That's why I do stuff like this, is to talk about it.
Yeah, I think self-awareness it sounds really easy. But the more people I meet, the more I'm like, wow, you have no idea.
No.
Like, you have no idea. I think self-awareness is like probably one of my most favorite emotional intelligence components. You know, like both like, you know, for me to practice myself and in other people. Cause I'm like, how do you not know how you're coming across? Like,
Yeah.
how it's tangible how stupid you are. You know, like how are you not seeing what you are? You
Yeah.
know, like, and it's, you know, we're all guilty of it. Like there's things that I'll do or say and people are like, that was a bit aggressive. And I'm like, oh, was it?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't mean it to be aggressive. Like, you know, and you sort of pull back and you're like, what was aggressive about that? And you'll argue and I'm like, I was so not aggressive. And they're like, but you were. And I'm like, I can't argue with like three people saying the same thing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, and I've had plenty of those conversations.
Yeah. So like, I think like the whole key is not to, it's, you know, if you're lacking some self-awareness, like take it seriously when someone, provided they're not
Having a go.
they're not a gaslighter or they're not like abusive in that way or like doing it deliberately.
Yeah.
But it's like, you know, when someone says something, like it's been, because I've been stubborn a lot of the time. Like I've been just like, you're being unreasonable. Like what you're saying is rubbish. I know what I said. I know how I said it. I know what I'm doing. And then it's like, hold on. Maybe just listen and really reflect on this for a second because it's growth. You know, and like you'd be an idiot. You'd be an idiot to continuously argue that how you are or what you've done is not affecting someone in the way that they said it was.
Yeah.
You know, but I think it's massive. Like it's just very underrated and people are like, oh, you know, they've got great self-awareness. It's like, we've all got no, we don't all have self-awareness.
they
It's
do
rubbish.
not.
Most people have an incredible lack of self-awareness.
Yeah.
You know, and we see it all the time. Like open mics. Oh, I fucking crushed. No, you
No, you
didn't. You really didn't.
Yeah.
That was awful. And, you know, one person going is not a laugh. You did really bad.
Yeah.
You know, and you'd be doing a disservice to someone to be like, yeah, man, you killed. You didn't.
Yeah.
You know, I hate it when I've gotten off stage and like I've done awful and someone goes, good job. And I'm like,
Shut up.
don't.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
like I know how I felt up there. Like,
Yep.
you know, and I know I'm hard on myself. I know there's times that like, you know, I've done well and like, and I think it's Alessio. He calls it pulling a Shaheen when, you know, you go well and someone goes, good job. You're like, no, it wasn't good. Like, I know what a good job is, but I know that I'm also comparing it to like a really good one.
Yeah.
Like, you know, that I did a few weeks before. And it hasn't like, you know, my levels didn't hit the same, you know, fulfillment as they did when I really felt like I did well.
Yep.
You know, so like, yeah, I might have done all right. Like it was good. Yeah, the laughs came at the right place, but it didn't feel as good as, you know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I am always chasing like another high, you know. So yeah, anyway.
No, I totally get it.
Yeah. So like, yeah, I think that the self-awareness is just you do have to listen to people sometimes.
Yeah.
And really reflect on your own actions. You know, I think it's massive. It's massive. Like to take the effort to actually sit down and be like, why did I respond that way? As ashamed or as embarrassing as it may be, like, why did I say that? Like, why did I do? And why? It's, I think for me, like, I don't know if I'm changing topics here, but like around the self-awareness thing, it's like there are times that I'll be ashamed of thinking something, even if I haven't voiced it out loud. Like, it's not, I don't walk away from a conversation and be like, oh no, I said this and I'm going to cringe about it for 3 weeks. It's like, no, like I walk away thinking, why was the first reaction in my head something that negative? Even though I didn't say it out loud, but it's like, why did I think that about this person? Like, you know, it's like, where is it? Where did that come from? Like, what is it? Did they, you know, were they being really friendly to me, but I immediately just didn't like them because they remind me of some bitch in the, you know, grade 3 that like said something or looked at me funny? Like,
Your
it's
triggers.
like my triggers. And I'm just like, you know, you have to own that. Like, I have to own it because you don't stop them from happening. They'll never stop happening.
No.
It's like it's a reflex and it's going to come out. And like, there's so many friends in my life now that I'm like, I couldn't fucking stand you when I met you. I hated you. I hated the look of you. You breathed funny. And I was like, I want to slap her.
Yeah.
You know, and then you become really good friends and whatever. And it's like, but what was it about this person that my immediate dislike just consumed my mind? Like, why was it? And like, you really have to think, because I know those triggers are going to come, but it's the idea of like, what am I going to do with it? Like, you know, like I really have to think about why I felt this way rather than like try to stop them happening, because it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Like, you know,
100%.
like it's just going to happen.
But that's mindfulness 101, really.
Which is so hard to practice though, right? Like,
Yeah, because I don't think, but again, you're not shown this sort of stuff because we are told that we are us from day one, right? That we are defined by this individuality of our thoughts and ideas and these sorts of things. And then, we get defined by what society defines as a good thought or a bad thought, or what you should do and you shouldn't do, as opposed to individuating who you are and why you think these ways. And a lot of two-thirds of your brain are subconscious. So how much of your actual self do you really know? And, again, I think trauma is understanding trauma is one of the most transformational perspectives that anyone can have. You go from what's wrong with you to what happened to you. And that's the thing I was talking to you before about, Dr. Gabor Mate, about, The Wisdom of Trauma. That's the name of the movie. I've talked about it before in the pod. Great movie. Because you understand that all of these triggers and reactions have come from our fertile young minds being put in positions of emotional and physical insecurity and needs not being met, but also not being addressed by the environment to soothe or to manage that. And those wounds are the painful memories that keep coming up, and those ghosts and those whispers in the back of your head that tell you can't or you shouldn't do this or stay away. But nobody tells us about those things.
No.
They manifest themselves in addictions and these psychological urges to soothe pain, this pain inside.
Yep.
It's why I think so many people who live the 9-to-5 rat race live for the weekend, because they're in perpetual states of discomfort, mentally, physically, about what they think they should be doing, where they are in their lives, that they still think it's perfectly fine to get blackout drunk every weekend. And you're like, don't you notice?
It's so hard. And I think because, like, obviously, yes, in like the line of work that I do, it's like, like we're so highly trained in that, because it's, it's trauma-informed practice. It's trauma-informed care. Like when, we are working with someone, like we're not walking away from a client going, oh God, I can't stand her. All she does is yell at me. It's like, why is she so aggressive? Because like when you've got like, you've got all the different types of trauma and you've got all the different responses, like, like you use the most basic one of like, oh, a tiger's coming towards you. Like, do you is it fight or flight? Or freeze, right?
Yeah.
But then like when we're seeing it in our everyday situations, it's like I'll meet someone and like, you see there's so much trauma. Like I'm just going to use the comedy scene because, we know most of the people, right? But it's like you see these behaviors coming out and it's like, those people that are particularly aggressive or like irritated or, like they don't always like the comfortable person to be around. It's like, okay, yep, you're a fight. And then it's like the next person, it's like, why are you so numb and withdrawn? Okay, there's a freeze. And then like you've got like the flight, which is like, no, I'm in complete avoidance, complete denial. Nothing's ever happened to me. I'm incredibly healthy. It's like, you are not healthy. That is a flight response. It's like, so you can sort of pick it out,
can't
like you
unsee it.
You can't. And the thing is, like, I think when we're so highly trained to see it, it's like it's such a big part of how I, it's like if I meet men, like we're having a conversation, I'm like, he's so damaged. I'm like, I can't be here. Like you can tell just from like a very, very simple conversation most of the time. And I'm not saying I know everything. I'm sure I get it wrong. But most of the time I'm right. But like you can just become so used to it. I think like a recent example of that is, and I'm not going to give much detail, but there's someone who's like incredibly lovely, like a bit of a bizarre unit, a little bit strange, but obviously reaching out for connection. And there are people around me who have just been like, nah, they're fucked. They're weird. They're this, like they did that. And I'm like, but what they did was a nice thing. Why are you not questioning why this person is reaching for connection rather than like making fun of them for something that they thought was a nice thing that you're now laughing at? Like, it was like such a mean girl act to me that I was just like, why are you doing that? Like, why are you saying this about this person when I'm like, why don't we look at what's happened to them? Because clearly this person has a story. Something has gone terribly wrong, probably a number of times. Like I'm assuming this is like complex trauma, not just like one acute fucking, incident. And it's like, it actually drives me insane knowing or having that like next level of like, no, let's not look at this as black and white, like let's look at what's actually going on. You know? And it's funny because it's a very trauma response to look at something as black and white. Do you
Yeah,
know?
absolutely. To deal in absolutes. Yeah.
Yeah, like it's like, hold on, like there is so much gray area here. It's like, why don't you give this person the time of day? Which is probably another reason I'm burnt out, because I take the time. It's exhausting, but it's like,
Yeah.
I would love to be black and white sometimes and be like, not my issue. You're an asshole. I want nothing to do with you. Like, 'cause whereas a lot of the time I'm like, oh yeah, they're fucked. I wonder what happened. Like, you know?
Yeah, you want to look at the car crash a little bit longer.
Yeah, yeah. And it's like, I don't, and it's not always that I want to. I just feel like, we're all human beings. Compassion and empathy go a long way. And a lot of people say they got empathy. No, you fucking don't.
No.
You don't. You have no idea. That's not empathy. Like, it's just, being a nice person is not empathy.
No.
Being a good person is empathy. So,
Yeah.
but, yeah, anyway.
It starts with it for sure.
Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah,
to-
my rant's over. Sorry.
No, it's good. It's what I want to hear. I mean, maybe to come sort of full circle and to contextualize what we were talking about here. So, yeah, the reason why I brought you on, I wanted to speak to you, was about your history in social work. I know we've already talked a fair bit. And
Are
then,
we? Okay.
Oh, it's just because we got to be done by 7 so we can catch up with the gang.
Yeah, we got dinner.
Yeah. But yeah, I wanted to speak to you about your history in social work. Learning about trauma and my own mental health and state has made me very interested about how it's dealt with in the public arena, particularly on mass and on scale, because most of what happens traumatically probably occurs in the family unit more than it certainly has for me. And then just really understanding, like, I know that I'm new to this, and it seems like a revelation to me about trauma and being trauma informed. But social work has existed for plenty of years before me knowing about it.
Yep.
So I'm curious to know about how much depth of knowledge is brought into the work that you do as a social worker, depending on the cases that you do, and even how it obviously get to the point where how it impacts your own mental load as well, because you have to take on so many other people's stuff. As someone that is constantly overreaching people and can be, an empath, I say that sardonically, but I am. I know that I am, because I really am energetically aligned to people and can sense, a room. That's again from my own hyper awareness from my own traumas in my own family problems.
Yeah.
So I understand that about myself.
Yeah.
So obviously, taking the emotional burden of people is probably a secondary question, but the first question is, how long has trauma-informed social work been around? What's your experience with it? And maybe speak a little bit about your modality or what you've been doing in the past.
Yeah. Okay. I'll try to make it as short as possible. So I'm not actually social worker trained.
Yep.
I fell into that. So I actually did a Bachelor of Arts in Advocacy and Mediation, and then I did my graduate diploma of psychology, and then I did my master's in Human Services counselling,
Right.
social sciences counselling. So it's a long one. And so while I was doing that, I was like volunteering at Lifeline. I'd started working like as a case manager for the bushfire survivors. So obviously trauma was massive in that. And trauma, so like in a psychology degree, you learn nothing about trauma. Like,
Really?
no, funnily enough.
Wow.
So yeah, funnily enough. But in my counselling degree, like we had a whole semester on trauma, loss and grief. And if you are interested in reading about it, like probably have a look at Dr. Rob Gordon, who's like a Melbourne head, incredible stuff. So we did like a whole semester at uni about it, but I didn't even get to that until after I'd learnt it on the job in the bushfire case management. That was after Black Saturday back then.
Right.
So we had a big, like we had a lot of training in it at the time. But learning about it is so different to working with it, because we were sort of learning about it from the lens of like after a natural disaster, because those are the people that we were working with.
Yeah.
And it was great. I learned a lot, and I learned a lot mainly in my work with these people, because I'd feel so out of my depth so much of the time because I hadn't even finished my master's yet. But volunteering for Lifeline, again, did another component on it. And then I also co-facilitated a group for people with anxiety and depression in Coburg for a few years in the evenings. Like, talk about filling up your time, right?
Yeah.
So I was doing that.
It's a lot to take on.
Yeah, my weeks were full. So I was doing all of that, like, and I got so lost in everything that you just become numb to learning all of a sudden, because I was doing so much of the work and trying to be present, like with my clients, trying to be present, taking a lifeline call, trying to be present when I was running a group, trying to be present in class while I was trying to learn. And then I sort of, after a couple of years, I moved over to family services. And that's where I did a lot of my learning on trauma, because it wasn't coming in the form of someone who had just lost their house,
Yeah.
like in a fire. And I'm not saying just lost their house, like but
Yeah.
it's a different type of trauma, obviously.
Sure.
I started to work with people who, and it's not to say that obviously people who had that had lost their house or had lost loved ones and that were like traumatized by the fires, like it's massive. That's going to be haunting people for a long time, and
Yep.
something they're going to be working on in the long term and stuff. But I suppose because that's what my focus was, it was different to working in family services where, it was just a family from the suburbs, not out regional, hadn't lost their home, still had shelter, but were still presenting with these problems or these issues or these like intrusive thoughts, like audio like that was coming back, and like flashbacks and that PTSD and everything, borderline personality addictions, like there was abuse, there was violence, there was sexual abuse, like all this sort of stuff. And I'm like trying to deal with each component at a time. But then at the same time, I'm like, oh my gosh, like there's so much here. And I'm feeling like sort of helpless. I'm like, okay, I got so much to work with. But like, and I can easily sit there and be like, all right, well, I'll just get you a referral into counseling and, do this and do that. But I was new to the world of social work, which is so much about social justice and so much about, looking at the environment around a child, like, so the family and then, the community and then the society itself and like all that sort of stuff. Whereas I'd come from counseling where I'm like one-on-one person-centered therapy, like it's just you and I, like, it became like family systems and strengths-based theory and all that sort of stuff. And which was amazing to me because it was like still, I learned heaps in the counseling degree, but doing social work itself
Yep.
was heaps more, do you know?
Yeah, of course.
But when you've done counseling, you can slip into it, which is great. But like, the trauma that I was seeing were like these behaviors that could almost, like trauma could be so debilitating that it could almost present as a personality disorder, and yeah, you're right. Like, things like addictions or not being able to hold down a job, like that. Yeah, there is that drug and alcohol abuse, suicidal ideation is such a big one. Like all of these things present, and it's like, people look at them as sort of separate, and I'm just like, it's all trauma. Like all of it
Yeah.
ends up at the end of the day is trauma. It's like, what happened? Like, let's go back. And that's a great thing about things like counseling and social work, which is so underrated, is that like, when you have built that rapport with someone and they're comfortable with you, you can go into this, it's like, let's draw up your family tree and let's look at your history. And yeah, let's start with your childhood, like what's resonating, what's coming out. And a lot of the time, you don't even have to ask those questions. When they're comfortable with you, it comes
spill.
out.
Yeah.
And then you start to connect the dots with
Yeah.
stuff. And then you can look at what's happening in that household. It's like, oh, okay, so you have had a string of abusive partners. Like this is, now I get it. Okay,
Yep.
and now your kids are seeing that. And that's why this little one is now playing up and he's mimicking these behaviors and he's at school doing it. And so you can see, the things like all like that generational trauma,
It's a
which is
thread,
like
yeah.
seeping in. And yeah, so like I mean, the organization that I work for now is huge on trauma-informed practice. It's become like an even bigger thing in terms of like people are getting trained in it like regularly, they're refreshing their knowledge on it. We're getting updated sort of trainings in it constantly all the time. And it's so important because like people say trauma and they think of like war veterans and like flashbacks and nightmares,
Yeah.
which is massive. It's obviously where like the idea of trauma first started. They're like, oh, PTSD, this is what it is. They do think of war veterans and stuff. But they're missing little things like, like, oh, someone showed me a video of like some guy with his head split open falling off a motorbike. Like, why do I still remember this from like,
Yeah.
because that was very confronting to see. So it's like people, and they talk about it. They talk about it on repeat. They keep mentioning it. It's like, this is really bothering someone,
It's the fucking loop.
It's massive, So, and then, yeah, like just the different types of trauma, like that cumulative harm, that over and over and over, and then the different types, because I think like for me, it started like I learned about it as acute trauma with one incident, and the domino effects to follow and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, there was just so much like it's just learning on the job,
Yeah.
having done it for so long. But I would say definitely in the last few years, 5+, trauma informed care has been huge, in terms of being able to have that real empathy for clients, because you can't. I know if you don't have that trauma informed practice, then you're going to be a terrible mental health worker or social worker counsellor without having that.
That's what I was going to ask. Is like, so what was it previous? It was just a band-aided solution about, yeah, times are tough.
No, I think honestly, I haven't done a social work degree, so I'm sure that they would definitely have that in social work. But I think having that ongoing refresher is just a reminder, because when you become burnt out and you get that compassion fatigue, and you're also struggling with that vicarious trauma yourself,
Yeah.
as a professional in the field, which I have many times. Like, no one is immune to it,
No.
But you can be coming back from a client's house and you're extra irritated, or you're like, I can't be fucked. Like, this is just like, why is she not listening to me? Like, why is she not taking on these recommendations? Like, you can start to feel burnt out, and then in your personal life, you're like, a friend's like, oh, can I just talk? No, you can't. I'm done. Like, I've had a day. And like, you start to notice it when you're just like, I'd rather just be sitting in my office doing admin work.
Yeah.
Like, I used to get to those points where I'm like, what, I would kill to just sit in admin today and take phone calls.
Yeah.
And have someone just come in. I can just direct them. I'd love just a spreadsheet just to do data
Something
entry
mindless.
today.
Yeah.
And it's in those moments that I'm like, okay, I think I need a break. And then you take your break and you come back, and the first thing you want to do, like, provided you're in the right, workspace, or field, the first thing I want to do is like go see my client and see how they are and be like, okay, cool, let's go from here. But yeah, then you come in, especially because I worked with a few clients that had borderline personality, and I loved each and every one of them like dearly. Like, I really had this care for them, but I'm like, some days like I'd be treated quite aggressively, or they might have been like just real agitated, real irritable, and just hating on me that day in that moment. And like, I'm just like, I've tried so much to help you. Like, that's what you think in your mind. You're like, why are you doing this to me? Like, I'm here to help you. But it's like, if you are, at a healthy state where like you're present, you're high functioning as a worker, it's easy to be like, I can see what's happening here. But on the days that you're worn down, I'm just like, why are you doing this? You come back. And so I guess that leads into like the other part of your question, which was what's available to you as a professional in the field when you're experiencing that vicarious trauma, or you're feeling burnt out, you've got compassion fatigue. I've been lucky to have amazing management at those times, and we have supervision fortnightly, so we've got a chance to sort of just, like to dump everything every 2 weeks and talk about it. And even like, you don't have to wait for supervision. If it's something massive, or you've just come back from a home visit and you've seen something like very disturbing, or experienced something really, really like that's on you and just difficult, that's triggered you in your own traumas or whatever you've got going on. Like, I worked with a lot of like sexual abuse cases, so that would just send me into like a bit of a frenzy on days that I wasn't like, that my resilience wasn't high enough. So I've always got a supervisor there that I can come back to and be like, I need to talk. I just need to dump this because this is what's happened. So, and like, a good manager or a good team leader can just make or break you, and make all the difference to the work being straightforward, easy, or easier, or manageable, and can make it a living hell. And I've had both, but I would say like the last 10 years I've had amazing team leaders and management, so I've been very lucky.
Great.
But when I didn't, I was like, I'm ready to leave this job and never do this work again.
It's always about the people.
It's
always in a job you're passionate about, it's always the main reason why you want to leave is the shit people. Manager.
You need to have your safe space to come back to, because you're going out to someone's home.
Oh yeah.
And you have to know that you got a safe space to come back to at that office.
100%. I totally get it. I mean, I've asked my therapist this, like, who therapizes therapists, right? And imagine where does this energetic energy, this damage, it might dissipate in healing, but that's still got to be transferred and communicated to you, and you've got to absorb that to a degree.
Yeah.
And that's got to go somewhere. So do you ingest it? Do you pass it on? And does it go up this chain of people?
And they've got their supervisors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
Everyone's got them. It's a big chain that just keeps going.
Well, that's what I was thinking. I had this idea for a sketch where it was like the therapist, right? And it's just this hierarchy of therapists that just get like older and more experienced.
Yeah.
Until it's just like an old therapist, like an old guy and an old chick just in one of those like break rooms that they can't talk to anyone because there's no one to talk to. So they just have to get all that trauma just by smashing shit just over and over again.
Yeah, yeah.
Just having to get it out through rage. And it's
Yeah.
just like, fuck, you know?
Yeah. And then some people just don't need it, like, not that they don't need it at all, but like, we could both go and be confronted with the same situation and you might walk away completely unscathed and I'm going to walk away just a mess, And so like, I think even those that are supervising, like a lot of, I know psychs and stuff, they don't always need to have a supervisor.
Yeah.
Like, because unless something actually triggers them, they don't need to,
Yeah. But even, I mean, maybe because I am just so always emotionally tied to people in situations and like to help them, I'm like, they seem like sociopaths to me to be able to be to be able to be faced with that much of other people's problems all the time, to not take that on. Like you'd have to be made of some serious stuff or not give a shit.
I think there's a big part of self-care that goes into what we do.
Yeah.
And like we're constantly being told, like if it's been like a day and you've seen like a couple of clients and it's been just horrible, apart from having that supervision or having like a quick debrief when you come out of wherever you were, is to like do something nice for yourself tonight.
Sure.
It's a big part of it. It's like do something nice for yourself tonight or give yourself something to look forward to. Like make sure you do go out with a friend for dinner tonight rather than go home and think about what's happened today.
Yeah.
Like we had a case where a baby died and I'm like, what am I, like my thought, like after I'd managed it and had to talk to the right people and figure out what we're doing and talk to like the worker whose client it was and all that sort of stuff, I was like, tonight I'm not going home, like, because I knew, like, and I immediately, like, and it comes with, like, because at the beginning you're like, I don't need self-care, like, I'm in this work to help people and, like, I am going to hear things, but then you don't realize it starts to impact you over time.
Yeah.
So, like, I immediately, like, it just comes as second nature now. I remember at the time, like, I called my partner and I was like, I know we weren't catching up tonight, but are you free? Can we just go to the movies or something? And he's just like, was it a bad day? And I'm like, yes. Like, can we just go to the movies? And I'm like, that's just going to help me. It's going to be my buffer between what happened at work today and then going to bed.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be by myself.
Yeah.
So you put things in place, you do that.
Yeah. I mean, it just seems like you are constantly emptying and refilling the cup.
Most definitely. But I don't want to take away from the fact that, like, the people that I work with, like, I'm so privileged to even hear their story in the first place. I'm privileged that they're telling it to me. I'm privileged that they're comfortable enough to tell me. I'm privileged that they are allowing me to help. And there's, a lot of the time, like, yeah, it is horrible stuff that we're hearing or seeing, but then we don't get to talk about, like, the amazing stuff that gets done as well.
Yeah.
Like when they hit one of their goals or they achieve something that they wanted to, or when things are going really well, because that's why we're in the work, is to be able to achieve those positive outcomes. And it could be the smallest thing, like, to just change, like just a slight reaction or have them like think twice before whatever, or to be able to say, the other day I was getting that thought about me being lazy and I immediately was like, no, I had a tough day. I've got 4 kids. I'm a single mom and I just made myself a cup of coffee. I'm like, that already in itself is like a slight change, which should be celebrated.
Yeah, because you need to reward that. I mean, I think that's almost the inverse of what the trauma is really, right? Because from what I've learned so far, that, the trauma that occurs to a lot of people in childhood developmentally, it's the disparity in the child's world versus the adult's world. So what might be considered small for the child or small for the adult in the enormity of their life, looking after their kids and maintaining a household, this singular incident that means the world to that kid and to not have it addressed by their carer and their parent means, can be that damaging part. And I think it's the inverse almost in a way, is that you need to celebrate these iterations in these ingrained behaviors and celebrate that small change, which actually creates significant impact
Yep.
in their life, in their perspective.
Yep.
Versus, you would have to almost, not patronizingly, but you've probably seen that small change occur in so many other people. And like, you've got to still be like, hey, great job. And then hopefully you're compassionate and legitimately excited about that prospect.
Oh, most definitely, because it's so hard. It's so hard. Like, even for me, myself, like I don't think, there's so many things that I don't celebrate, or like I'm like, hey, that's a significant change. You know what I mean? I'm like, oh, that little kid inside me that feels this way is suddenly empowered rather than scared.
Yeah.
So when I am saying to a client, that's amazing, good job, it's like, I do truly feel like, oh my God, this is amazing, because and as many times as, we've supported or helped, like, it wouldn't even be patronizing. It wouldn't even be like a, yay, well done. It's like you did it. Like, it takes ages. It sounds like something very small, but it's massive. So like, I'm happy every time it happens,
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
No, it's really good to know. And it's like, we're talking about this off camera, but, one of the reasons why I love talking about this sort of stuff, or I'm interested in it, and, just about compassionate ways of helping the community and helping others, is that I feel the same way in my professional life, working with big charities and not-for-profits. I found it really, really fulfilling. We might be talking about the boring things about technology and dollars and cents and negotiating, but being able to convey to them that, hey, I find these projects important because I understand what they enable for you. During the bushfires and during the pandemic, you keep these vulnerable families and children connected and feeling safe. I did projects where I was giving internet to rural communities, and some of them are getting an education for the first time. And that's cool. That's fucking amazing to think about.
It takes one person.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It takes one person.
For fuck's sake. Give me one sec. Oh, kind of a nice moment. God fucking damn it. Yeah, but it does. It does take. What's that? Is it working? This is gonna stay in, folks. You're gonna.
Jameel was having a nice moment.
I was having a nice moment. Why can't?
And he doesn't want to cut this part out because it was such a nice moment for you.
Yeah, fuck's sake. This is staying in. God damn it. Hang on.
He's very particular about how things have to run. There it is.
Yeah, there we go.
Back to Jameel's moment.
Yeah, back to my moment, guys. Oh, you can't. Yeah, fucking hell, it's gone.
It takes one person though.
Yeah,
it takes one person. Like, just a bit of incentive. A bit of initiative.
Yeah.
To give. Yeah, I think it's really, really special. Like, I don't know. I think people underestimate. It takes like a lot of people to make like a big thing move, but it can just take one person as well.
Yeah,
one bit of understanding.
100%. Because that. Yeah, you don't understand fully the relative impact it has to an individual's life or an organization or a community group or whatever it is. But yeah, no, I've felt really privileged to feel that, which is the nice side of what I do, really, because everyone thinks about like tech bros and fucking all that sort of thing. But no, it's actually like, I can create some pretty serious impact here.
Yeah, and it's nice to like have that moment to yourself. It's not like, hey, I'm going to make a donation and now I'm going to post it on Facebook.
Yeah.
It's like, no, I did this today and I'm going to enjoy it privately. It's not about other people knowing that I did this today.
Yeah, 100%.
It's about like, I was so happy I could make, and like it's good enough to have you sort of walking on air for the rest of the day, knowing that you made a slight, even the smallest positive change in someone's life. Do you know?
Oh yeah,
it's special.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, and sometimes it's just you feel like sometimes I guess to the point like for me where it's just the right thing to do, and it's staring you right in the fucking face sometimes.
But people are lazy.
People are lazy, or they just maybe they don't recognize the value in reaching out like I have, or or like others have. For example, I'll give you like last week, a couple of weeks ago, we had something for the grand final and at my work, big corporate place. They've got boxes of sandwiches, party pies, all that sort of stuff. And they're trying to get people to get back into the office. So they've catered for people, assuming everyone would come back into the office, but they didn't because they can't be fucked. So now we've got like 4 boxes of sandwiches just sitting there that are going to go to waste. And I'm sitting in 101 Collins Street, which is probably a bit too much, but I'm like in the Paris end of Collins Street. I got Fendi and Prada and all these things around me, but there's still homeless people on the street. And I'm like, this is just a fucking waste. And people around me agreed, but they're just like, oh, that's sad, isn't it? And I go, isn't
They
it?
just walk away.
Yeah. So I was like, no, there's 2 ladies that they were going to take something. So they took a box each. Like, yeah, they know where the homeless people are near Parliament Station. Go. And I'm like, you come with me. One of my colleagues, you come with me. We're taking a box down and we're just going to go down up and down Spring Street and find some, disadvantaged people and give them this because it's just going to sit here and fucking do nothing. But it took me a second to actually act on that and just but I just sat in the frustration. But there's just not that will to act for a lot of people.
It's very bizarre. It's very bizarre when people don't help. I find it really strange.
Yeah.
When people can just turn a blind eye.
Well, it's not a blind eye. It's just
but it is.
It's, it's intentional.
That's sad. All right, next. That is turning a blind eye because you're just like, I don't want to have to deal with the food. I'm out. Do you know what I mean? I just find it. I think it's really strange. I can understand if it's someone aggressive yelling on the street that maybe you don't want to sort of, it's like, just I'll be careful. But then sometimes I rethink it and I'm like, what's going on? What happened to you? So I can sometimes maybe think about it a little bit longer, whereas I can see people just ignoring, driving past, and I'm like, I get it. You don't want to deal with it that day or you're in a rush. I've certainly been there, but I think more often than not I do stop. But not everyone's that way wired, and that's all right. Because there's still people that do.
Yeah.
You
We just need a few more, that's all. That's the problem.
Yeah.
I mean, but part of me, I've said this a couple of times, I don't think altruism is real. I think people are turning a blind eye to the fact that they feel good and feel validated and feel nice about doing something good for other people. That it's not this selfless act. I think people are negating that feeling because I will definitely do things for good karma. If I'm faced with a situation where I can help someone and it doesn't impact me too much, it doesn't get out of my way, I'll fucking do it. And it's not, yes, I want to be a good person, but I know I'm chasing the good karma in this, and I don't know. I guess it's sort of like making peace with that is to go, I can do good things, but be okay with the fact that I'm being a little bit selfish in this process. And because, hey, still great things are still getting fucking done,
Yeah.
I don't know. How do you feel about that, the altruistic element of just being good? I'm just going to check time quickly. Oh, yeah. Still got a few minutes.
Okay. I think for me, I had a Christian upbringing and I don't know, a couple of people giggle at me because sometimes I'm just like, what would Jesus do? Jesus wouldn't walk past this kind of thing, or and it's not because I'm being a martyr or not because I'm doing it to go to heaven. I really try to put myself in that headspace, which I know sounds very strange to some people. But I don't always think about the karma. I think because I spent a good deal of my life being very angry. I'm like, I always do good things and shit things keep happening to me. I was like that for a little bit.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, what did I do to deserve that? What did I do to deserve that? I just did this last week,
Yeah.
And so I've really wiped that thinking.
Yeah, you can't be keeping score.
No, so I've really, really wiped that kind of thinking. And it is the other night, for example, I pulled up to the front of my house, couldn't be bothered parking in the stacker. I was tired. I was sitting in the car, didn't want to get out. And then there was this man who was he was in this shop front underneath my apartment, and he was groaning a little bit, and I'm like, oh, what's going on there? I'm not used to seeing homeless people in this area. It's really bizarre. I'm used to a lot of drunk people coming through because there's a bar around the corner.
Yeah.
And a lot of yelling and screaming, just drunken behavior. But he was groaning, and then every now and then he was sort of yelling at no one. He was like, fuck off, and all that sort of stuff. And I'm like, what's going on here? Like, because he was groaning as if he's in pain, but then he's swearing. And I'm like, okay, if he's having a psychosis or it's like a drug induced or he's schizophrenic or something's going on, like he could really attack me.
Yep.
I don't know what's happening here. And then so I remember like I messaged like a group chat and I was like, I'm like, this is happening. Like, I feel like I should check on him, but I don't know, that's sick.
Yeah, shouldn't happen.
And
But
I
yes,
was
it is
waiting
sick.
for it to switch on. Yes, I was like I was really wanting to find out if he was okay.
Yep.
And then I was like, this could be potentially dangerous for me. But something inside me is like, go check on him. And I'm like, Jesus would check on him. Like that was where
Yeah.
my head was, right? And I'm
Yep.
like, get it. I'm not a messiah. I'm not trying to be one. But like something innately in me was like, just go see what's up. But I kept like a safe distance and I'm like, I can run if I need to despite my size. He's on the floor. I can get good like,
Yep.
distance. Like my apartment's right there. I've got the keys in my hand. So I put everything in my head and I was like, I went up to him and I said, are you all right? And he goes, I'm just really fucking cold.
Right.
And I was like, okay. And it was that really freezing night earlier this week. Mm-hmm. And he's like, I'm just really cold. He's like, it's so fucking cold. And then I was like, are you staying here for the night? Like, I'm not stupid enough to be like, come sleep on my couch.
Yeah,
But I was
yeah.
like, are you staying here tonight? And he's like, yeah. And I said, did you want a blanket? Mm-hmm. And he was like, do you have one? And I said, yeah, let me go grab one. Mm-hmm. So I went up, I grabbed the blanket, I heated up my heat pack. I've been freezing the last few nights, mind you, because I gave him my heat pack.
Yeah.
But I heated up the heat pack and then I went down and I gave them to him. And I left. And I didn't think anything of it. I just did it and I left. But then, funnily enough, the next day, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go see if he just dumped my blanket and heat pack and just left them there. Like, I hope he took them with him.
Yeah.
Like, there was a part of me that was like, please don't leave them there. Like,
Yeah.
I wanted you to this, And then I went and I had a look. They weren't there. I checked the bin. Like, I actually went to that
Yeah.
length. I'm like, did he put him in the bin? And I was like, he didn't. And I'm like, okay, I really hope he took them with him. And that they were helpful for that night, But I guess there was part of me that questioned, like, why did I need to check that? Like, I wasn't doing it to know what happened next. I was doing it to know that he was going to at least be a little bit warmer
Yeah.
that night, So maybe, I don't know, I don't know what that is. But, like, I definitely wasn't expecting good karma or anything. The thought of him being cold bothered me. And knowing that he was down there sleeping while I'm up in a warm bed bothered me. So I'm like, I knew I wasn't going to let it go. I knew I was going to get him a blanket
Yeah.
after he told me,
Yeah. No, I totally get that.
Like, so when I went back down, he's like, I thought you weren't coming back. And I was like, no, here you go. There wasn't necessarily a thank you or anything, but I wasn't looking for a thank you. I just wanted him to be warm.
Yeah.
That's the bit that was getting me. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, good. I mean, great for you. I mean, you do want a little bit of gratitude, I think. It'd be nice.
I mean, like at the end of the day, maybe I did do it more for me because I'm like, how can I sleep when someone down there is suffering? There's people suffering all over the world, but I know about this one now.
Yeah.
So it was done because I'm wired in that way, maybe. I didn't really care about the gratitude, but if I had given him a blanket and he's gone, right now, fuck off. Like I would have been like, excuse me.
Yeah, bro, what are you
like,
doing?
That would have bothered
Yeah.
me. But like he was freezing, he was alone. He's obviously struggling to have to be sleeping at a shop front, on a weeknight.
Yeah.
So,
I totally get it.
Yeah. Yeah. But I have wiped that karma thing about like, I'm doing this to get something back. It's like, no, I'm just doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I get it. I mean, I'm not keeping score. I just know that there's something good will come. It's just like, I'm going to put that out there.
Yeah.
I'm going to put this positivity out there. And something, again, it's that abundance part, right? It's that I'm feeling good, so I want to perpetuate goodwill onto others. As opposed to going, oh, fuck this is for me, or that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's also one of the benefits, coming full circle, is that filling your own cup part, right? Because if your cup is not runneth over, if it's empty, you can't pour it out into others' hands.
No.
Not at all.
No.
And that's the number one sign.
Yeah.
And I think, sort of for you guys would more than anyone, as social workers, understand that, because if you get cynical about caring for those that are the most vulnerable, you're not in the right, you're not in the right place.
No, and if you're not high functioning and present, like it can be a very difficult day in the life of a social worker to be able to give back or give to a client if you're not fully there. Like if you're going through a breakup or like there's stuff going on in your personal life, because you do have to shut all of that out to be able to be present for a client. And that's what I've tried to do before. It's like, if I'm not going to be able to give everything today, then I'm not going to work.
Yeah.
Like it's just not going to happen. Hence a mental health day here and there. It's like, I don't think I've got what it takes today. Like you can just, I'm very honest about it. And like, it doesn't happen very often, but when it has, I've been really honest and I'm like, I don't have it in me today.
Yeah, but you just go, fair enough.
Yeah.
Right?
But you got to, there is a part of it that's like, am I not up to being a social worker? Am I not up to be working with people? Like, is it, like, can I not do this? Do I have an issue with coping? So, like, it takes so much to become like a seasoned worker, and you learn so much over your time doing it about yourself, about other people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Anyway.
No. Well, look, I'm glad that you are out there helping the good people.
Thanks.
And, thank you for your time and thank you for the insight. I really appreciate it.
Cool. Thank you for having me. It was a good conversation.
Yeah, it's a great chat. Where can the people find you? I know we talked about serious topics here, folks, but she's a fantastic comedian. Go out and see her if you are in the Melbourne area. Where can the people find you on the socials, on the interwebs?
On Facebook, Mimi Shaheen Comedy. On Instagram, at Mimi Shams. And then Twitter, Mimi Shaheen.
Great. No TikTok yet?
Of TikTok's Mimi Shaheen, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know how to use TikTok.
You just post stuff up there. I don't know. I've been coaching Matt on it a little bit as well before.
You need
I
to
left.
help me as well.
Yeah,
with that spare time you have.
Yeah. Oh, trust me, I've got enough. I've got enough time for you. Don't worry.
Jameel's gonna help me.
Yeah, 100%. But guys, thank you very much for your time. I don't have AC to plug anymore, so I'll see you next week. See ya.
Bye.